Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our first Microsoft Copilot webinar this year. And today we have Angela with us, who's our Microsoft Copilot specialist. So she's going to be talking about everything Microsoft Copilot, show you a bunch of what it can do and the advancements that have been over the last few months. In the end of the session, there's going to be time for Q&A. So you can ask the questions, anything you want to see, etc., in there. But feel free to also ask questions in the Q&A session throughout the webinar, and then it will be picked up either during the session or in the end. And then following the webinar, for anyone who wants any follow-up, action points, etc., Angela and the Redsquid team is available for follow-up demos. Anyone who wants to see something personalized just to you, as well as all your account managers who's there for follow-up questions for anything you want to see around Microsoft Copilot. So now I'll hand it over to Angela and have a great session.
Thanks, Camilla. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. As Camilla's already mentioned, I've got the pleasure of talking to you for an hour or so about Copilot. So hopefully you'll find it really interesting and it's going to resonate within your job role and how it can work within your day-to-day. I'll go through a bit of an intro first in terms of where technology is going. So it took 2 months to reach 100 million users for ChatGPT. And this illustration is just to show you how quickly technology is evolving. So again, put it into a wider perspective. For mobile phones, it took 16 years. For the internet, it took 7 years to reach 100 million users. Whereas now for ChatGPT, 2 months. So this is just to show you that technology is not going anywhere. If anything, it's evolving. Generative AI is not going anywhere. And we want organizations to really start to think about how it can work within your day-to-day. As I said, it is evolving quite quickly, and Copilot itself has been established for about 18 months. And last year alone, there were 300 updates. So although today I might say, oh, it can't do that in Excel just yet, in a couple of weeks' time, it probably will, because there are things within the roadmap all the time. It keeps me on my toes as well. So I'm glad that it's not always a rinse and repeat same presentation, because the demos are always changing up. So it's not going anywhere, and we want people to get on board a lot more earlier rather than later, so they're not really left behind. They don't feel like maybe your competitors have adopted it and you feel like you're lacking in operational efficiencies, and then you come to Redsquid asking for an AI tool and it's a lot more advanced, it's going to take longer to adopt, etc. So I'm really glad you guys have taken some time off in your day to join this webinar, so you can see how it's going to work. Now, Microsoft ran a survey, and what they found is 75% of people are already using AI at work. Somebody says that they can't hear me. Is that the same for everybody else?
I can hear you just fine, Angela.
Okay, perfect. David, maybe it's worth jumping off and coming back in, and hopefully the audio will work for you. So yeah, 75% of people are using AI already at work, and 80% of them bring their own AI to work. So people might be using things like ChatGPT with or without the organization's approval, for example, or any a free consumer solution. So hopefully this gives you an idea that people are using AI, or most likely are using AI, and it's not going to be a big behavioral change if you look to adopt Copilot. But also, if people are using something like the free version of ChatGPT, that might be posing risk to the business as opposed to using Copilot. And I will get into, well, what's the difference? What's the difference between ChatGPT and Copilot? And stay tuned. I will mention what is the difference. Just before I do think this is quite relatable, hopefully. So employees are interrupted every 2 minutes. So I've put myself on do not disturb today, so I'm not pinged on my team's chats. I've got emails coming through all the time. I've got follow-ups, and then I've got my day-to-days of creating new content, etc. And so I'm juggling a lot of things. And as I said, I'm sure I'm not alone when I say this. And what Copilot is going to do is give that time back to you, so you can focus more on your skill set, focus on what you think is priority. and leave the rest to Copilot to do those mundane jobs. And just before I get into Copilot, this is a bit of food for thought, but I do want you to think about, where do you see improvements in the business? Where do you spend, or where do staff members spend most of their time? And how do you feel like that could be automated? Can that business workflow start to be automated? Do you want to improve some quality of work, maybe in HR and finance? Or maybe you want to provide employees a better employee experience, maybe to retain them. And it could be a little bit of everything that I've mentioned, and that's completely fine. It's just, the reason why I'm showing you this slide is, if you start to think about where you see improvements in the business, it's going to make a lot more sense as to, well, can Copilot support and fix these issues that we have, rather than the other way around and just want to understand Copilot and then try and make it work. So we're here now. So I'm going to be talking to you about Microsoft 365 Copilot. So this is your AI assistance that is integrated within your Microsoft applications that you use on a daily basis. So when you open up your Teams, your Outlook, your Excel, PowerPoint, all of your Office applications, you will have Copilot within those applications. You don't need to go over a browser in order to communicate with it. Now, please stay with me as I go through this. I'm just going to break it down. Although this does look a little bit intimidating, I promise you, I'm going to try and break it down as to how does Copilot actually work. So if you focus on the top left-hand side, we open up an application. Let's say we open up our Microsoft Word. And when you open up your Microsoft Word, you have a ribbon of features, fonts, bullet points, etc. You also have your Copilot button. Click onto it, ask it a question or command. Let's say, Copilot, can you draft me a business proposal based on Project X? Now that's your prompt. Your prompt is then sent to the Microsoft Graph on the bottom left-hand side. And the Microsoft Graph is basically your internal data. So anything you have access to, Copilot has access to. So this is things that are stored in your SharePoint, your OneDrive, your Teams messages, your emails. Copilot has access to all of that. Let's say, for example, you wanted a couple of Copilot licenses, and it doesn't mean once those users have Copilot, they can all have access to financial data when they never had access to it before, because it respects your permission level. It doesn't go beyond that. So if somebody said, what's my manager's salary? Copilot won't say, sorry, I can't access that area. It will just say, sorry, I can't answer that question, if they don't have access to it. Okay. So it respects your permission level. Now, once it collects the information that it needs from that Microsoft Graph, let's say it's collected some PDF, some Word documents, some email, it's then sent to the large language model on the right-hand side. And the large language model goes beyond a keyword search. You know, when you use a search engine, that's basically a keyword search. It's kind of collating your words together and giving you a data dump. Whereas the large language model tries to understand, what is your intention behind asking that question? And it will start to provide you a richer response. So, for example, I've asked it about Project X. It's going to try and understand, have I been working with somebody around Project X? Are there previous projects in the past that are similar to this one, in order to give me a better response? And that's deposited back into your application. So in its own words, it will give you a summary of what it's found, but also citate everything, all of the documents. So you can sense check your work as well. Where did Copilot get this information? You'll know exactly where. Okay, so hopefully you're still with me and you understand how it works. The apps, the graph, the large language model, all works together. I did mention I'm going to highlight ChatGPT. So anybody that uses ChatGPT, anything that you input into ChatGPT is saved into public data. So you're pretty much training the model every time you use it, which is why we don't recommend using it for business purposes. Whereas Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can do that. You can confidently input financial information, client information, things that you deem as highly classified within the business, and it's not training Copilot. Copilot is not trained on your prompts or your data in order to better its model and pass it on to, other organizations, etc. A common question that I get is, well, how is how does Copilot learn then? Copilot has already learned its behavior. It's been learned on like public books, understand human language and its knowledge, its general knowledge. It's still going to learn from each user, but for their benefit. It's not for other people's gains. It's not going to leak outside of the organization, which is why Microsoft 365 Copilot has been created for business purposes, because it has that corporate protection. Okay. Right. So hopefully that all makes sense. I'm going to get into the fun part now, which is the demos. I've pre-recorded everything in real time, so just to show you how quickly Copilot responds back, and I don't want to waste anybody's time by switching windows, etc. So let's get into Outlook first. Before I play my video, it is going to enlarge, don't worry, as soon as I play it. So I'll just tell you what's going on. So Alex and Megan have both been discussing opening up a new store in London. They've been talking about tasks, ownerships, budgets, etc. And we've all been there when we've been looped in a chain of emails. And you know, it's great scrolling through 25 emails on a Friday afternoon trying to figure out what's going on. Whereas you no longer have to with Copilot. So I'll play the video, and there's something called Summary by Copilot. So if you've got loads of unread emails and you just want to get through them quickly, click onto Summary and you get an idea of what's going on before you want to digest it fully or just move on to the next email, etc. We're going to reply back. There are two options. There is draft and there is coaching. I'll show you draft first. So we're going to ask Copilot, Copilot, can you draft me an email to accept my tasks in the inventory? She's not mentioning what the tasks are. She doesn't have to. Because she's clicked reply, Copilot understands it needs to go back to its previous emails to understand and extract what Megan needs to do. So she doesn't have to do that heavy lifting herself. You can change the tone of it. You can change it to formal, casual, neutral, change the length of it to long, short, medium, etc. I am always baffled as to why you'd want to choose to have a long email, but that is an option if you want to choose that. So we're going to generate it and I'll show you what it comes back with. And we've got our drafted email. And as you can see, it's bullet pointed the tasks in the inventory. So Alex is fully aware what he doesn't need to do. You can regenerate it if you want a different response, or you can just tweak it. I'm tweaking it quite a lot. I actually typed in, make it into a poem. So as I'm the only one on camera today, so just to keep this a little bit lighthearted, I just want to show you how quickly Copilot can transform an email into a poem. I've never sent a poem on email in my life, apart from creating this demo, but there we go. Now, I want to show you, we can get Copilot to draft us an email, but what if you wanted to write your own email? What can Copilot do? So we're going to write our own email. I am following up with Emma. We've had a meeting together. I'm saying let's have another meeting on Friday so we can discuss further plans for a webinar. And we're going to click on coaching. Coaching looks at how are you going to respond to a recipient. It looks at your writing style. So if you're coming across a little bit too harsh, Copilot will pick up on that and will give you a little bit of feedback to help soften your tone. And in this case, it says maintain positive enthusiasm. Instead of saying perhaps we can schedule, change it to I would love to schedule. Rather than saying maybe we can do Friday, say I am available on Friday. And then under sentiment, it says encourage engagement and interest. So I mentioned, let's talk about this webinar. And it's asking, maybe ask a few more questions to get some ideas before our next meeting. And then under clarity, I mentioned I'm free on Friday. I didn't mention what times I'm free. So Copilot is basically saying, be a bit more specific, Angela. So you can click on apply all suggestions and it will create you another email with those suggestions. And you can just click on insert below and it would insert it below your original email. And if you just want to pick some of the suggestions, you could just tweak your original email. So you have two sides to it. If you want Copilot to create you an email, if you want Copilot to just give you a little bit of feedback to better your email. So that's draft and that's coaching. And let's go through some unread emails. We have all been there when we've come back from annual leave or we're on the go and we need to catch up on our inbox and we have 50 odd emails to get through, maybe more in some people's cases. And let's just assume this is unread emails from different people, not just my name plastered across it. This is just for demo purposes. And I'm going to click on chat, Outlook chat. And it opens up a side panel. It'll give you some suggested prompts. You can speak to Copilot if you want to. It could be speech to text. Or you can get some inspiration with the suggested prompts, but I'm writing my own prompt. I'm actually asking Copilot, I'm just going to pause it there for a second. You might be able to read it. And I'm asking Copilot to basically organize my unread emails, but in certain categories. We all know the types of emails we receive. In this case, it's around recruitment. So in my case, I said categorize them with the types of emails that I would receive for people that are asking for jobs. Or have there been any complaints that have come through? Are there any prospect clients that we need to start to onboard? Whereas yours might be obviously slightly different based on your job role, the types of emails that you get through. And I just want to show you, my prompt is a little bit more thorough, but it does make a difference if you spend a little bit more time adding to your prompt than just saying, can you summarize my unread emails, Copilot? Because Copilot will just come back with bullet points with what's unread, and it's not going to be productive for you. So I'll show you what Copilot's come back with on my prompt. So as you can see, Copilot within a couple of seconds is starting to follow my instructions. And then if we scroll back up, I'll show you exactly what we're looking at. So as you can see, it's starting to categorize people that have asked for jobs, potential candidates, some complaints that have come through. And if we scroll to the third one, which would be new client requests, and there are citations, so you can click on the citations and it will direct you to the exact email that Copilot is referring you to. It's talking about time-sensitive messages, which is the complaints, and then it's talking about suggest priority order. So what do I need to address ASAP and what's least priority? This is how I work, and I find it very, very useful. So I thought I'd share the way that I prompt within my, just to tidy up my inbox. And Outlook works with Copilot for Outlook works with anything within your emails and also your calendar. You could even say, can you find me some availability for me and my colleagues to book in a 30-minute meeting? So rather than you having to go through their calendars and find a mutual date yourself, get Copilot to create you a Teams invite and find a mutual availability. Right, so that's Outlook. Hopefully you found that interesting. We're going to move on to Teams now. Teams works on transcription, okay? So when you set up a meeting, turn transcription on, or even when you join the meeting, turn transcription on. And then Copilot is running on the background. I do have a common question that says, well, is this Copilot transcription? There's only one transcription, and Copilot just works against that transcription. Okay, there's no different types of transcriptions. Right, so as long as you have the paid Copilot license, then Copilot is going to start to utilize that transcription. Now we have recording on as well for this catch up, but you don't have to have it on. And I'm catching up with Copilot. So rather than catch up with a colleague or watch an hour-long recording, I'm asking Copilot what decisions were made during this meeting. And in a second, Copilot is going to come back and say they decided to delay their launch date for this project. Again, there's citations. You can hover over and it will tell you who said what, just to verify what Copilot is coming back with. And I want to dig a little bit deeper. I'm going to ask Copilot, did they reach a group consensus? Did they all agree to delay this launch date? And I'm showing you this demo when a meeting has ended. Copilot works live on a Teams meeting as well. And I will come back to that. So don't feel like it only works with catching up on meetings. So Copilot will come back and say they decided to delay their launch date by 2 weeks. And as I said, prompting is important. So I want to know the pros and the cons for delaying this launch date and put it into a table. And that's what I said in my prompt. If I did not say put it into a table, it might give it to me in a couple of bullet points in a chunky paragraph, and that's not the way that I want it. So just be a bit specific in your prompt in terms of how you want it laid out. And you'll see in a second, my table will appear. There we go. And 9 times out of 10, we have follow-ups, and we want to know what they are. So I want to know what those follow-ups are. So I'm going to ask Copilot, provide me action items and put that into a table as well. This is really good. If you are on a Teams meeting, you've turned on transcription and you have Copilot, you can distribute those action items to the rest of your team saying, this is what we need to follow up on. So it's not really an excuse to forget after a Teams meeting with Copilot there now, because as you can see, although the video has ended, on the right-hand side, you'll see a little table and it will show you who needs to do what after the meeting. So it's task management. Right, so I did mention Copilot works live in a Teams meeting. So when you're in the Teams meeting, you can turn on Copilot as long as transcription is running. And if you open up Copilot, it will open up a side panel. Nobody will be able to see your Copilot chat within that meeting. And you could say, what was the last thing Angela said? You could say, Copilot, I've jumped into this meeting 10 minutes late. Catch me up. Has my name been mentioned? Has there been anything shared during this meeting since I'm late? And Copilot will catch you up, and your prompts are not shared with other people and the responses are not shared with other people. So it's only you having that conversation with Copilot during that meeting, for you to just get caught up. It's basically your AI colleague on a Teams meeting. And my favorite, although this video has ended, my favorite feature is follow. So I'm on the go a lot, and sometimes I have meetings that clashes with each other or I just can't attend them. Now, rather than decline the meeting, you will have a follow button. So you'll have accept, decline, follow. Rather than decline the meeting, just click on follow and Copilot will attend that meeting for you. So it will say, whoever can attend the meeting, it will say, Angela can't attend this meeting. Can you turn on transcription? And then somebody will turn transcription on for my Copilot. Copilot will note take and add that summary back into my calendar so I can catch up in my own time. So you can get Copilot to attend meetings for you if you can't do it yourself because you're on annual leave or you're attending another meeting. Okay, so that's Teams. Obviously, I won't be able to show you everything today. It's going to take far longer than this webinar if I had to show you all of the features that Copilot can do, but hopefully it's given you an idea of what it can do, the main parts of it. So we're going to move on to Excel. I am not Excel savvy, so I am starting off with basic to moderate use, and then I'll build up on that. So I've got a table. I've got a table all around bakery goods, how much we've sold in November and December, the profit we've made. And as you can see, it's quite lengthy and it has to be in a table format. Okay, so if your spreadsheet is not in a table format, just highlight the cells and click on format as a table, because Copilot will be able to have a look at every single numerical value better than if it's just quite raw. So put it into a table format and then open up Copilot, and I'm actually going to click on a suggested prompt. I'm clicking on create formulas, and Copilot is going to suggest a formula that I may have not thought of to include within my table. So Copilot has come back saying how about revenue growth? So looking at the differences between November and December. It will give me the formula. If you want to learn, you can. As I said, I'm not Excel savvy, so I don't want to learn. However, at the bottom, it will give you a pre-window of what it could look like. And then you could just hover over insert column and you can see how it would look. And then you can just click onto it. So you don't actually have to learn the formulas. You can just implement the end result. Now that's given me a little bit of inspiration. So I'm going to ask Copilot, can you create me another column for revenue growth between November and December in pounds? I haven't even typed in pounds. I just did the pound symbol. So I'm just typing in natural language, natural human language. I'm not doing any kind of like Excel jargon or anything like that. Just be very simple when you're instructing Copilot. You can, if you want to, include those words. And then I've just inserted the column, and as you can see, we can see the full values of how much it increased and decreased by. Now I'm going to do some conditional formatting. Those of you that don't know what conditional formatting is Copilot is going to start to highlight certain cells in the sheet so it pops off a little bit more easily so we can figure out what's going on our table. So I've asked Copilot to apply some conditional formatting for profit that is less than £1,000. and it's saying it's going to do it in red, but I already mentioned in my prompt I want it in red. So click on to apply, and literally within seconds, Copilot is going to implement the conditional formatting. And they're not static. You can edit these implementations as well if you go straight into conditional formatting values. Now, again, I'm going to ask Copilot to highlight the cells in green this time for profit that is over £3,500. So click on apply. And as you can see, there are a lot of bakery goods that are doing better than worse on my table, which is good. Please don't spend too much time looking at my numbers. This is just for demo purposes. Now, I'm going to ask Copilot to apply some icons. So apply some icons on column I. Column I is all around profit percentage. And I just want to see what is in red with the arrow pointing downwards, which is basically profit that is less than 40%, and the rest obviously doing well and not doing well. So as you can see, it's implemented those icons within that column. So we can start to change and manipulate the table a little bit. Rather than just add colors, we can add icons. Now I'm going to move back to revenue growth, but I'm not going to change the last column. I'm very interested in the last column because there are a lot of minus figures, which means there has been a decrease between November and December for the bakery goods. So I'm going to ask Copilot, can you create me a column just to say red, amber, green. Red would be anything in the minuses. Green would be anything over £1,000, so it's increasing in value, etc. Click on apply or insert column. And there we go. Now at this rate, it looks like I'm just asking Copilot to create me a larger table. And if I shared this with a colleague, they'll be like, Angela, what is going on? So I'm going to ask Copilot to fill those cells with colors. Because Copilot can see my history of prompts, then I don't have to be very specific. Copilot understands what I'm trying to ask it. So I just said fill it with colors. And red, amber, green, click on apply. And there we go. As you can see, those that are highlighted in red are the ones that are not doing very well, are in the minus figures. Those that are in green are obviously doing very well. Now, my favorite feature within Excel are visual representations. And I want to, if you have an idea of what kind of graph you want, just mention that to Copilot. I want a graph between these columns, etc. But I just want to get some ideas. So I'm going to ask Copilot, show me some data insights. And Copilot will suggest a visual representation initially, and then I'm going to show you another way to get more. So as you can see, there's a graph, and it's saying there's a lot of bakery goods that have not moved between those months that are sitting in the amber. If you want to keep it, you can just click on it, add to a new sheet. You can have a look at the little blurb at the bottom. But I would suggest clicking on Add All Insights to Grid. And it will create you another sheet with all of the visual representations that Copilot can suggest within your table, what's going on. They're not static images. You can change them if you wish with the axes, etc. And it even adds pivot tables, so you can start to filter through what you want to look at and what is doing well and what isn't doing well. So that's for basic to moderate users. Anybody that is a little bit more advanced, or even if you're not, you can start to be more advanced or have a look at deeper analysis, is I'm going to ask Copilot to create me a dashboard using Python. I actually didn't know what Python was before I started doing this demo. Python is all like, it's deeper analysis, it's coding basically, but you don't have to learn that coding. Copilot will do it. Just click on do advanced analysis and Copilot will create you another sheet, will extract everything from that table that it's always going to look at, and then it's going to create you a dashboard. So other visual representations, and I'll show you why it differentiates to the first one that you've seen. So as you can see, I'm going to expand on it because it is quite small. So as you can see, it's talking about different areas, profit percentage, correlations between expenses and profit, etc. But if you clicked on these images, they are images, you can't change them. But it is a dashboard. So every time you update the table, which I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to my table. I'm going to update the quantity size to a ridiculous amount. This bakery is doing very well for itself if it's 50,000 units. But let's say that bakery good has increased to 50,000 units. And in a second, you'll see the dashboard has updated. So you can create like a mini business intelligence within Excel as well using Copilot, not having to do any formulas yourself. So hopefully that's given you an idea of how to use it within Excel. We're going to move on to Word. So you can access Copilot within different areas within Word. I'll just show you the side panel. You can speak to Copilot. You can toggle on web browsing. You can compare a document to things over the web if you want to. You can attach a document. You can click onto view prompts and it will give you some suggestions, what else you can start to use, and you can save them. If you have any prompts that you really like that you use quite often, click on that bookmark, click onto your prompts, and it's always going to be there. So you can find it a lot more quickly. And then we've got the prompt library. So if you clicked on view more prompts, it will show you the prompt library. Change your filters. I'm going to say I work in finance. I want to understand something. And I'm going to find a prompt that resonates with me. And when you're happy with it, just click onto copy and then paste that into your Word document or the document that you're using. So in this case, I've pasted the prompt and it's all about getting a financial report out of that Excel spreadsheet. So I've actually done / and then I've typed in the name of my table. So that's how you attach a document, or you could just click on the plus button and attach a document. So we are transforming an Excel spreadsheet into Word format, so into a summary, a financial summary. We can go a little bit deeper, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But based on my prompt, I've told Copilot to create certain sections like business strategy, etc., in order for me to start to implement it within my Word document. So as long as you're happy with it, copy and paste that into your Word, and then we're done. They can look at existing documents as well, and you can rewrite it, you can change it into tables, etc. So you've got loads of different types of capabilities you can do within Word. But I don't want to spend too much time on Word because I've got a few other demos to do. But I want to show you the last one is transforming a Word document into an email now. Let's say we want to attach that summary onto an email. Let's get Copilot to create that email for us. We all know how to write an email, but just get rid of that mundane task. And I said, sign it off with my name and give me a summary of what's included within this document. And that's what it's done. So you can create emails from it as well. Right, so let's move on to PowerPoint. I know a lot of people might not use PowerPoint. They might feel like they're not creative enough or it's time consuming, but you no longer have to spend hours, if not days, creating a PowerPoint slide with Copilot. Now, Copilot for PowerPoint, you can transform Word documents and PDFs into PowerPoint slides. And I could show you this demo, but I just want to show you workarounds as well, because if you are looking to adopt Copilot, it's not always going to give you the answers that you want. Sometimes you might have to find a workaround, which is maybe using something like Copilot Chat. And I want to show you something quite real. So I want to change an Excel spreadsheet, which you've just seen, that bakery goods, into a PowerPoint slide. So I've opened up my Copilot Chat, which will be within your Teams, and that's called Copilot Chat. And I'm asking Copilot, can you create me a framework for my PowerPoint presentation? And I've attached the Excel spreadsheet. So although Copilot, I can't use it directly within PowerPoint, I can get a framework. And Copilot is starting to look at what's within my Excel and it's starting to tell me what I should include within each slide. So I've opened up my PowerPoint, I've opened up create a presentation, and I'm just pasting that framework. And Copilot will start to create you like a storyline of how it's going to present. And if you were happy with it, you could just click on generate, or you could just move them around, change the flow of it, add more information. It even respects your company branded templates. If you have got your own color schemes and logos, etc., you can use them. And I've clicked on generate. So Copilot will start to add images, add speaker notes as well. All of the images that Copilot is going to create are AI generated or from stock images. So there's no copyright issues whatsoever when creating content with Copilot. And as you can see, we have quite a professional presentation all around what is going on my bakery goods table. So what bakery goods we need to focus on. Obviously, there's speaker notes that I've mentioned. There's even divider slides in order to change the topic. So this is a game changer. If anybody uses PowerPoint, they would know it definitely does not take just a couple of seconds to create a PowerPoint slide. And even if you wanted to go back and add your personal touch, it's going to take you far less time to tweak it than start from scratch. Okay, so this is a bit of an educational piece. So I don't think many people online will know what Loop is. If you do, that's amazing. If you don't worry. Loop is all around project planning, brainstorming with a group of people. You can create several different pages following different projects and things that topics, etc., and you can share them with your colleagues so they can collaborate. And you should have access to this within your license already. And obviously Copilot integrates within it when you have Copilot. And as you can tell, I've got a sweet tooth. So I've got another demo around a cake sale now. So I'm going to ask Copilot to create me a Teams channel announcement to let everybody know that we are running another charity cake sale. Keep it short, keep it sweet. It's going to be on a certain date. And there we go. We got our announcement. And if you were working with somebody else and they were using Copilot as well to edit this page, you will be able to see each other's prompts. That's the only time you can see each other's prompts, if you're co-editing a document using Copilot within Loop. So this is just for myself. I'm just saying add some funny cake jokes. So it's just to make it a little bit more lighthearted. And then once it does that, I'm going to go a little bit further. I don't want a repeat from last year. Last year, maybe 10, 11 people just made the same chocolate cake and it didn't sell out. So we don't want to repeat the same thing. So we're going to ask Copilot to create us a table so people can start to populate what they're going to bring in, so we don't repeat the same sweet treats. And as you can see, I'm quite a slow typer, and my prompt is okay, but I just want to show you that Copilot isn't always going to get it right the first time, and I don't want you to feel disheartened and not use it again. It's just about bettering your prompts or redirecting Copilot. So I want to show you something realistic. So we're going to scroll down once the table's created, and I'm going to show you what I mean about an imperfect response. So we'll scroll down. We've got our table, and it's pre-populated, people's names on there, what they're going to bring in. That's not what I wanted. I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to go back to Copilot saying I didn't want it pre-populated, and can you add some clear instructions on how to use it? Yes, that's quite self-explanatory, but that's what I want. And in a second, once I prompt Copilot, Copilot is going to start to wipe the table clean and then add instructions at the bottom of the table, like you can see now. So literally within seconds, you can tweak and update your prompt, basically. And there is something called a Copilot loop. So no, not a Copilot loop, it's called a loop component. And what that means is you do not have to share an entire page with your colleagues. You can just share an element of it, and that's called a loop component. And what that means is you can paste that link into Teams chats, into an email, into a Word document, all of those locations if you want to, and they can populate their answers in those locations, and it would synchronize in real time back into your Loop page. So you don't have to keep updating the system. If somebody says they're baking chocolate chip cookies, you don't have to say, oh, let me go back into my Loop and update it. You'll just see it's pre-populated there already. So it's just more seamless. If you're chasing people on where they are with certain things, projects, you can create Kanban boards on there as well. Then start to use Loop. Forms is all around, you should have this within your license. It's about creating surveys and questionnaires, and Copilot is integrated within it as well. So we're going to ask Copilot to create us a customer satisfaction survey to understand their experience with utilizing our service. This was all to do with recruitment. So whether it's going through the screening process, interviewing, questions asked, etc. I said keep it open-ended, some of them open-ended. And again, you can edit it. It's not like it's a static thing that Copilot is creating and that's all you have to go by it. You can have that co-editing say, but just Copilot makes it a lot more faster to create that content for you. Okay, so let's go back to Copilot Chat, which is where we got that framework, that Excel framework from. And this is like your go-to place to ask general questions. So we've got work, we've got web. Work is your internal data. Web toggle is just looking over the internet. I'm going to fast forward this because you've already seen the prompt library, which is like the filters, etc. Now I'm going to ask Copilot to have a look at different areas. Have a look at my emails, my team's transcriptions, my team's messages, and within the last 2 weeks. And have a look at if there's anything I need to action off that I haven't done already. Maybe I've told somebody I'm going to send them an email and I haven't done it yet. So Copilot will say, these are the things that you still need to action off within the next 2 weeks. And this is kind of like a rinse and repeat prompt. I'm sure you'd probably use this maybe once a week, maybe once a month, etc. So we can schedule that prompt. You could say, Copilot, I want you to run this prompt on your own every Monday at 9 a.m. And it could be up to 15 times, and then it will run it automatically and you'll get your response. You'll get pinged a response within your Copilot chat when it runs it. So you no longer have to do that tedious, now tell me it again, tell me it again. You could just schedule a prompt with Copilot. These are 2 new features. The Notebooks is another note-taking app, and it's slightly different, and I will show you why. So I've created a page all around adoption of Copilot, and when I scroll down, those are all of the documents I've uploaded: PDFs, PowerPoint slides, Word documents. I'm telling Copilot how to respond to my questions if I do ask it questions. If you have weekly catch-ups and it's linked to your page, just click onto pages and then start doing your note taking, and it would save within the same page, so you can always add your own notes to it. But the great thing about this, hopefully the audio will work on here. So what you heard, hopefully you heard the audio, was a podcast. So everything you upload within your page, your PowerPoint slides, your Word documents, etc., even your notes, Copilot will collate it into like a 10-15 minute podcast, AI generated, obviously, and it will be like a male and female just having a conversation about the things you've uploaded. So if you have a little bit of downtime, but you don't have hours on end to digest that information again, you can just listen to a podcast that Copilot has created. So I thought that was quite cool to share. So yeah, that's Notebooks. The last demo that I want to show you is creations. So creating images, creating videos, creating banners, etc. All AI generated with no copyright issues. So you can get some inspiration if you want to. Rather than prompting from scratch, you can choose an image that's already AI generated and you can tweak the prompt. I'm tweaking it. I'm saying change learn into Copilot, change the word, and you can change the style even further if you didn't like that style, but you kind of wanted to use the background, etc. And then you can change the colors. You can upload your logo, your company branded logo, and choose your company colors. And then it's kind of like baking a cake. I fast forwarded this video because I don't want you staring at a screen for 1 minute. But it's kind of like the process of it, creating it. And as you can see, it's manipulated the picture that I wanted, but based on my prompt, it's changed it. And I've said, I want these colors. And you can tweak it further. On the right-hand side, I've asked Copilot to change the background to pink and upload that logo as well. And same thing, you can just keep asking Copilot to edit it until you're fully happy with it. So you can start creating content very, very easily. So that is creations. So we've come to an end of the demos, but I do want to talk to you about agents. Some of you may have heard of it already. This is included within the Copilot license that I'm talking about. And this is a way to make it more personal for you. Okay, so an agent is getting rid of the noise. Let's say, for example, HR. They're probably referring to policy documents, terms and conditions pages, maybe a SharePoint site that's just for HR. You can create an agent, name it whatever you like. Let's say we name it HR Advisor, and then plug in the resources I've just mentioned. So every time you speak to that agent within your teams, so you speak to HR Advisor and you ask it a question about project X, It's not going into your emails back in 2019 just because you mentioned that keyword. It's only stopping at the resources you've plugged in. So it gets rid of the noise and it focuses on your job role. And you can create as many agents as you want and share them with your other Copilot users. There are loads of other examples that other customers have used it for: onboarding new staff members, like sending like welcome emails, etc., through their Outlook. There is knowledge base agents that you can create. So if you have people, like if you have services that you offer, pricing, etc., you can upload all of that within an agent. And then rather than maybe juniors constantly probing senior staff for those answers, they could ask the agent the question instead. So there's different types of agents you can create. It can go further. There's something called autonomous agents. So let's say, for example, you have frequently asked questions coming through your emails and you're constantly answering the same thing over and over again. You can ask Copilot to reply back on your behalf automatically. You can say, Copilot, every time an email comes in with these questions, I want you to find the answers from this website or from this document, and draft an email for me and send it on my behalf. So Copilot can reply on your behalf. It won't say it's from Copilot, it will say it's from yourself, but that's autonomous agents. It doesn't have to just be emails. That's just an example. But you can start to automate processes based on your pre-instructions as well. Microsoft has created agents already, like pre-built ones. So if you don't want to start from scratch, there are pre-built ones as well. There's one called Analyst. So if you've got like two data sets, two Excel spreadsheets that are very, very, let's say, very messy, and there's critical information on there, you can dump those data sets into Analyst agent, maybe add a PDF, maybe add a certain company website, and it will start to process. It might ask you some clarifying questions before it starts to process, and then it's going to start to use Python coding. It might come across some failures, and then how it's going to overcome it with new formulas, and then it's going to create you an executive financial report. So you've seen the baby version within Word, but if you wanted to like something that a data scientist would actually give back to you, then I would recommend using Analyst Agent. So you no longer need to be a data analyst, and you could just use Analyst Agents, and it will create you a very similar report with thorough visual representations and text as well. Right, so that's agents. I'm going to go back to security because I did mention anything that you have access to, Copilot has access to. Okay, so it's really, really key that access controls are done properly, so people don't have access to areas of the business that they should not have access to. We don't want people to have Copilot and then they start to realize, oh, I didn't know I had access to this, and Copilot just gave it to me. So but this is something that Redsquid and the team would actually do a prerequisite to have a look at your permission levels, and do certain departments need to have access to this SharePoint site, doesn't need to be archived, etc. So I'm not going to go, this is quite high level, but just it is a prerequisite in terms of just as long as you're happy with what people have access to, then Copilot will be fine. Right, as long as you're happy with the demos, and let's say you're looking to adopt it soon, I just want to give you a flavor of adoption. I've kind of already given it to you during the demos, but I just want to show you best practice when prompting. GCSE. I'm not bringing you back to school. There's something called goal, context, source, and expectation that should be included within your prompt. Okay, so this is my prompt. Goal is tell Copilot what you want. I want 3 to 5 bullet points. Context, tell Copilot what you're trying to look, why you want those bullet points. I'm trying to prepare for a meeting with client X to discuss their phase 3 brand campaign. Source, if you don't attach a document, where do you want Copilot to look? Narrow that down a little bit. Focus on emails and Teams chats since June. And then expectation is, okay, you're going to get 3 to 5 bullet points, but who are they for? Is it for yourself? Is it for a client? Is it for internal staff? The language will be slightly different, so mention that. Please use simple language so I can get up to speed quickly. And we found if you use the GCSE framework, it doesn't have to be in this order, just as long as you add this kind of information, then you're more likely to be satisfied with how Copilot is going to respond back to you, rather than you feel frustrated and constantly going back and forth with Copilot saying, actually, I didn't want it like this, etc. So GCSE, I would say, is a top tip when it comes to adoption. Copilot works with anybody that's an information worker. Anybody that has a PC, a laptop, a mobile phone will be able to use Copilot. Yes, Copilot works on mobile. And I just wanted to show you different departments. And I do recommend having a look at something called the Copilot Scenario Library, which you can have a look at free of charge online, which is basically to show you a day in a life as a finance analyst, as a marketing manager, as an IT administrator. So you can pick and choose types of industries or job roles, and then it will show you how somebody in your job role would be utilizing Copilot in a day, what applications they're using, what prompts they're using, how does it support your KPIs, just to get you that extra inspiration and that adoption piece as well. So definitely recommend having a look at the library. And there is a 15% promotion that is running at the moment up until the end of September. Okay, so if let's say you will have to purchase at least 10 in a go in order to make the most of this. So let's say, for example, you purchase 10 tomorrow, and 6 months down the line you wanted another 10 and the promotion has ended, you are still eligible for 15% off because you've locked in the promotion for 1 year, because Copilot is an add-on license for annual commitment, or annual upfront or annual monthly commitments. So you'll be eligible for 15% off for the year as long as you lock it in before the promotion ends. The last thing that I want to mention is Copilot readiness assessment. So I've kind of already gone through that. It's an add-on license, so you do need to be on a base license, like your Microsoft license needs, and you need to be eligible to purchase Copilot first of all, and then also prerequisites like permissions, SharePoint sites, etc. And there's something called a Copilot Ready assessment, which is typically for at least 30 users and over. So if you're expanding and you're nearly there, then you'll be eligible to run this, to have this assessment run. And what it looks at is it looks at your security, your licensing, and your optimization of your licenses. So when I say security, I'm talking about permissions, how much has been exposed externally, internally, through SharePoint sites and OneDrive accounts. When I talk about licensing, I'm talking about who is eligible, how many people within the organization is eligible for Copilot. And when I talk about optimization, I'm talking about the license you're on right now, how many people are really utilizing their license fully or productively in order to get the most out of Copilot when you implement it. So it's quite a thorough report just to give you a bit of insight of as a whole organization if you are Copilot ready. So yeah, reach out to your account managers if you're interested in that, or even if you just want, another chat after this webinar to, further gain insights around Copilot, then we will be happy to support. I am going to open up the floor for some questions. I'm not sure if there has been any questions that's been dropped, so I'm just going to have a look at the Q&A. So I don't think there's been any questions dropped. If you have any burning questions, then feel free to drop it into the Q&A or the chat right now. I'll be happy to answer them. I'm not sure if you can take yourself off mute. So if you can, that's great. Otherwise, just drop your questions. As I'm waiting, I'll just mention one of the capabilities that are dropping this month. I believe it's this month, which is learning. So Copilot, as I said, Copilot is constantly learning from you to better its response and give you be more efficient for each user. Having said that, there is something called Copilot memory. And what that means is you can ask Copilot saying, Copilot, can you ask me 5 questions so you can get to know me better? And Copilot will come back and ask you 5 questions. And some of the questions will be, like, what's your tone of voice, etc. And then you answer it. And then it will ask you another, I think, 10 clarifying questions. And it's going to embed that within its user memory just for yourself, not for anyone else, in order to give you a more unique response, rather than you having to constantly tweak certain responses back. Copilot is learning that based on the questions that it's asked you. So that's called Copilot Memory. So as I said, there's always new capabilities that are coming up. So although you've seen some demos today, it's not just it. There's so much more. So hopefully you found it useful. I haven't seen any questions that have come through, so we might be giving you some time back, which might be good. But thank you so much for joining. I hope you found it useful. And any questions, any queries, etc., then please reach out to your account manager and they will be happy to help you and support you after this webinar. Thank you so much.